So, good morning, everybody. How are you feeling? Great! So, my name is Kalev Kuusik, and I'm coming from a company called ByteLife. And I also would like to know, who are you? What do you do? Are you developers? Can you give me some signs who are developer side, who are from the operations side? And the rest are you pure security folks? Great. So, what I've been doing the last almost 20 years is around networks and security. So I'm more operations guy. I used to do a few years of development as well as a prime job, but not very recently. So I'm kind of moved away from that a bit, but not too far. Because you have to do some small stuff every day, which are not that far from developing something. It's not necessarily the new software piece, but it could be new solution or new approach what you develop. So it's developer is in my mind is a little bit wider definition than purely software developer. So last 6 years I've been with ByteLife, 6+. As an architect layer to develop new solutions, put different approaches together, try to bring something new to everybody of us. I also occasionally do some lectures in cybersecurity classes in Technical University / IT College in Estonia. So I believe most of folks you are from Estonia. How many from outside of Estonia folks we have? Few? Okay, still few. So those are very respectable IT learning institutions, I would say so. So, few words about ByteLife, about our role, what we've been doing and what we still believe we are doing. And if I would like to put it in one word, we are kind of lighthouse. So we are about 10 years old, few more, 11 actually to be more precise, or plus something. So we've established in 2005, but we are not very well known as a supermarket, I would say, because we were originally very focused on only very demanding customers. Now we actually widened our approach a little bit. That's why you see me here as well today. So we have now targeting more than one customer in Estonia, right? And what we've been doing, we started a while ago when I was young. Before my time, we started somewhere from the data center, very low level storage consolidation. At that time, that was the idea that nobody believed it could fly. So the idea was to use one unified storage for everything, not each and every server has its own storage capacity. Now, interestingly, in 20 years, the spins have been around a few times. Now we see again distributed, centralized storage solutions. Very interesting area. In few years later, we discovered a thing which in 2006 was really thing which nobody believed could fly. It's called virtualization. Now everybody has virtualized probably its clock or mobile phone or whatever 10,000 times per day. So you do it granted. But more than 10 years ago, it was like some weird geeks trying to do some impossible things, right? So we brought that to Estonian market and now see where it goes. About 5 years or so, we are banging heavily on a bit wider audience about DevOps concepts, and about that time we also did a very nice conference when most people didn't understand the thing, and the most common question was, what are you selling? And we sell the approach. Let's try that. It seems reasonable, but at that time, devs and ops was like 2 different buildings. I believe most of you do it by now as a nature, right? I hope at least. So last year we put extra effort on security areas actually, because we saw that's the area which needs more power to be effective, because every day you hear so many bad things, even in your close neighborhood. It's not far there in some magic land. It's with your neighbors, with your peers, with your company. So you see and feel it. So we thought maybe there is something we can do. Actually, we started the approach a long time ago, because in few slides back you probably saw I've been taking part of the Locked Shields exercise more than 5 years in various roles, and on red team, on green team. So we actually put some effort quite a while ago, but just last year, we were kind of ready to bring it to a wider market or to wider audience. But as it turns out, when we kind of brought those things to market, started to kind of educate the people, it took about 3 to 5 years to become mainstream. So that's a thing we kind of learn and think what is our pretty good value proposition usually is we see quite a long ahead. So we start to develop ourselves and obviously our friends, customers, peers at the same time as we learn. So those who go with us, they can really start from the early adopter benefits. And as it turns out, we found the light on all those cases pretty well. So that's why I call that lighthouse. We see where to go. So another significant event from last year, which kind of puts those security things in focus, we put our heads together with our peering company, BHC. As you all know, Estonia is a very small country, and there is a definite need for knowledge and human resources. So we found that they have pretty good match. What we combined with our match, we could put together a much better solution, much faster, bring it to our customers and give it a better quality. So we established a company which called CybExer Technologies. Essentially, that's best of our both companies. And the whole mission of this company is essentially focus on good quality cyber trainings. And the rest of the presentation, I will actually focus on different flavors of those security services, which in most of cases, as I said, are trainings. How many of you folks have been with us last week when we announced quite a many of those services? Can I see some hands? Right. For you, it's probably not that much new information. So I cover most of the stuff, obviously, in much more compressed way, in a little bit higher level. I don't go that much detail. So if anybody is expecting to see 5 screens of black background and some red characters typing, that was last week. That's not going to happen here today. Sorry. So you're free to, I don't mind if you look somewhere else. So let's start our approach where we stand today. And as embarrassing as it is, the passwords are the key factor of bad things to happen. And I don't like to put your hands up who has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 as password, right? I hope nobody from this room belongs to that 17% worldwide, but you never know. The malware industry has grown tremendously, so if anybody wants to make good bucks, that's probably wrong room you're sitting, right? Go to some other rooms, there is much more money to be made. It's more than 1 billion business. By now, it's a very good industry. But still, even it's very technical. They are all targeting people. All the different attacks which are very commonly used today, like phishings or clickjacks or whatever, just name it. All they are targeting people. So that means that a lot of effort has to put also in peoples to make them knowledgeable, experienced in this world. And we still stand in very, very long dwelling time. It means till we discover something bad has happened. And there are different sources, but they all fall in between 100 and 200 days, right? So it's awfully long time. From who was here previously, it took only 20 minutes for some person lose a few $1,000. So the money is moving really fast if something bad goes on. So you can imagine what's the amount of money in 100 days, right? So what is a portfolio we are bringing or just brought to the market? So I will start with something you all probably are very familiar with, because at least for those people who are related to software developments. So I will go actually to the details a bit later, but just I give you a quick heads up what we're going to talk about. So one of those services is penetration testing service. Obviously, that's not give all the weaknesses you have, but that's one of the best bets you can make. I will go into the detail just in a moment. Another one is cyber hygiene, which is targeting most common users, their education, how to approach that. And then there is a CRP, Cyber Range platform, which we offer as a service. So that is targeting specifically IT specialists, devs, ops, DevOps, a little bit more focused on ops side, but still not too bad for developers also take part of those kind of exercises. And there is specific service called Security Operations Center to help those companies who don't have enough resources or will or knowledge or whatever they're missing to build one of their own. Usually what's missing is scale. So our companies, as we say in Estonia, they are small. It's difficult to achieve scale effect. So we believe we can offer this as a service on reasonable grounds, on commercial terms. So I will start actually with a Security Operations Center as a first view, and try to explain a little bit the rationale what we put on that, why we are doing it. So first, what we've seen that each and every our customer or our friend's customer has brought a bunch of stuff. IDS systems, firewalls, antiviruses, anti-whatever. And they are all kind of working on their own, but there is very little interaction. There is very little human touch, very little analytics going behind it. It's just one event pops up and that's about it. Maybe somebody handles that event, maybe not. So it brings us to too many tools to be effective in those investigations. There actually have to be some tools. So not everybody has enough time to learn all the tools what's needed for those kind of investigation if something goes wrong, or forensic stuff or online monitoring or correlations or just name it. And it goes needless to say that attacks itself actually have evolved to very, very complex. You can't see, from the first hand, you can't see anything from the attack. There are several layers, it's like an onion. You discover one and there are a few others behind that or inside that. So that's technically is becoming very, very complex. And as I mentioned, we don't have enough educated resources to put each and every company very, very good resources up. So, and that's essentially the reason why the discovery process is taking so long. Why it takes 100 days or more days. Is just simply discover. I don't talk about next phases, which is a kind of mitigation or what you do next to do some forensics or whatever are the next steps. Even the first step is very, very painful, as we've seen. So essentially, what is a service value proposition is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. What we offer is continuous monitoring. It's obviously done by machines. The most of the work is done by machines. We put machines to work for us, obviously. But you can't do anything with machines because the bad guys, they are people. Obviously, they use machines as well, but so you have to put human touch on that to step one step further than machine can do, because machines are essentially dumb. They're very powerful, but dumb. So there has to be a human analyst always available to dig deeper, to do some extra hunting for bad stuff. Creative mind and experience, which machines obviously don't have. It also means we put together some internal procedures, some models we follow to track down, to look further, to investigate, to report that. And essentially that should translate for everybody as a smaller risk surface or risk grades. So we try to minimize that risk place. And commercially, we also believe it's much more beneficial as to build the SOC inside if the company size is not sufficiently big. And by sufficiently big, I mean few thousand heads. Below that, it's becoming usually quite challenging. So how it's built up? Small, quick architectural view. So we essentially collect different type of information. We start with a network-centric approach. So whatever is a critical part in your network, it could be the internet perimeter, it could be your data center, it could be your user segment. It depends on your business model or on your values, what are your valuable assets. So for each customer, it could be different anyway, but somewhere there is a critical piece in network, so we start with that. Obviously, traffic has to go somewhere, and usually there is a user involved, at least in most cases. So the user desktop is another piece which we take control of by putting some agent over there. And what the user is doing, obviously it's using some services, either it's internal or external user. I don't distinguish them specifically, it doesn't matter really. We just say there is some service provisioning component, some service you are offering. Even if you are a software developer, essentially you're software and somewhere providing some service, at least I hope so. So from those we collect logs. So here we have kind of very little involvement, and there is also not very disturbing involvement. There is more involvement in network side a little bit. And all this information is actually sent together to our network operations, our service security operations center, where it's analyzed by the different machine, different algorithms, different correlated with different feeds all over the world from the different sources, different vendors. And we use actually several stages of correlation to really minimize all the noise and bring attention to human only for really, really relevant attacks, which are smelling a little bit like attack. So humans can investigate further and do the hunting part. And if that's done, if it's clear that it's really high risk event, what happened, data is leaking or you've taken over the service or whatever the happening was, then we actually compile a quick report, 1-2 pages, not a long book, but really quick. So you can act on that, and we deliver it to you very quickly, near real time, I would say. Not necessarily in half a minute, but you get the idea. And then we notify you also as well that there is a significant issue in your either network or user or application or whatever the issue is. Very, very simple, straightforward, can really fit the process in one page, I could say, almost, but very effective. And what we're trying to do is actually we're trying to evolve it to the concept which is gaining kind of momentum. What is it's called threat hunt. So it's more proactive. So even the smallest signs are actually escalated or tried to analyze further. So it's not that something happened, but more like it's something is going to happen probably in very, very soon. So that's a direction we're actually developing our service internally. Because I talk about 4 different topics, I think it's okay if you really have question at the end of the topic to raise your hand and give a quick question. I hope I can manage to answer that quick answer. So this is what I wanted to talk about the SOC service. Is there any questions regarding the SOC service?
I have a question.
Sure.
What guarantees to me that, like, you put all these IDSs and IPSs in my system, what guarantees that your pages are not malicious or the tool you are using it doesn't have malicious intents?
Very good question. Pretty much nothing, yeah. Only thing you can do, you can look our track record. If you know our history, we are mostly focused on banks, telcos, high-profile customers who are usually don't deal very long with very suspicious companies.
Or you're very good.
Thank you. We are definitely very good. Thank you very much. Any others? Okay, then let's move further. The next topic I'm going to talk about is cyber exercises for professionals. So as I said, it's mostly for IT professionals, but the scope could be a bit widened, a little bit, not too much. So this is classically red, blue type of exercise. How much of you know the cyber exercises as such? Not too many. Okay, I see a few hands over there. All right. So the rationale behind it actually is pretty interesting. We discovered, and that has to do with human behavior during a crisis. So if crisis hits you, as average, more than half of people are not actually very adequate to handle the crisis, do some reasonable judgment, or go to some reasonable path. What happens is that only small percentage over there, it's about 20% people, all of you, statistically, about 20% are capable of staying calm and doing a job, follow the procedure, communicate as expected. Most of us, I would say, fall here. If it's crisis, then the heads go nuts, and you don't know exactly what to do, where to turn, what are the steps. Obviously, there are worse. There are people who are gonna be depressed. They don't do absolutely nothing. That's maybe good, but the value is still not very good if they don't do nothing. And there is a really small percentage over the black, and they're going to panic mode, and they're gonna kind of flip-flop, do crazy things which shouldn't be done usually. So they intentionally break something which shouldn't be broken. They may destroy evidence or give signs of investigation or whatever. Those are the baddest part. But the message here is pretty clear. If you end up accidentally in crisis, the chances are, if you are not prepared, you're gonna fail. So the idea to how to overcome that is pretty simple. You have to prepare. You have to train yourself for the crisis. And the cyber exercise, kind of live fire exercise, is specifically designed to do that. So we put you specifically in a bad situation, your team. I don't know exact size of your specific team, but usually we're targeting about 5 to 10 people, somewhere in that range. And we try to put that team together through very specific challenges. They are kind of pressurized in mentally to put your team act together, focus on specific things, to get the procedures running, to get the communications running, to get your guidance or supervision to do exact thing what the supervision should do, etc., etc. So for that purposes, as a general, we actually building the cyber ranges and ship them to different customers all over the world. But specifically for Estonian market, we thought that might be a good idea because Estonia is so small that we could offer that as a service. So you don't have to buy yourself a few racks of stuff. You just come and sit in your classroom, few tables, few chairs, and we run the exercise. So essentially, we provide everything for you, all the infrastructure, all the exercise content, all the scenario, all the attacks, capabilities, tools, etc. So essentially you come only with a laptop, or if you don't have one, we can provide that as well. So obviously we also provide all the supporting teams who conduct the exercise, the white teaming who is generally in charge of exercise execution, and helping teams like green team for technical support and red teaming for attacking support. So it's interactive exercise. Essentially, it's not in a sense scripted that the attack script run whole day and in exact time moment something will happen. It's more interactive depending where you initially said you want to put more focus, what you want to get out of the exercise. So it could vary on time, on direction. So we're planning to do it as a flexible setup, as much flexibility as we can put in. Obviously, we can't change everything, but we're trying to be pretty flexible. So what's changing with that approach? What we believe, what is changing with classical cyber exercises done 10 years ago or 15 years ago? We're trying to make it really, really interactive, really interesting and fun. So it's all live. It's not pre-scripted fully. Obviously, there are some points which will be followed, but the intent usually is there are two main intents. One is a technical intent, so train your technical capabilities, how to analyze, how to discover, how to monitor, how to fix, how to mitigate, how to work around. And there is also another very important component, which is teamwork. We're trying to make this team work, because who is coming to that exercise, that's your company team. There is no, or usually the team is not mixed. It's intent for a specific company to make your team work. So that's a basic idea. Any questions on that topic? Okay. Then that leads us to a bit wider audience than purely technical guys, the engineers and architects. So we are now talking about something which involves everybody of us, either you're technical or not technical, and we call it cyber hygiene. So the picture you see here, what it shows you, what is a task or type of misbehavior here. So it's shoulder surfing, right? You look around somebody's shoulder to get some valuable information. So this is just one of the categories we took. There are about 10 categories all together, and it starts actually from the idea that our IT systems are built already very well, obviously. everybody has put a lot of effort to build the best IT systems in the world, right? So they put in the firewall, the IDSs, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they built a wonderful wall from the domino blocks. Every block is standing very firmly. But as soon as there is a human element involved, those blocks starting to fall till there is nothing left. So it only takes one very weak chain or piece in this chain this to fall apart. So those technical systems don't help you all the way if the people are not helping you. So the idea here is to go and train really everybody, from the cleaning lady till the top management. So you should all have the basic cyber hygiene. So they know what is a password, what is a good password, what is a bad password, what is shoulder surfing, what is a social media, all those aspects. And essentially it's a combination of education and testing. So there is a quick test initially to get the focus right, so what needs most work, and then there is a training, and then there is a test again, so to see the progress, did you get the idea? And it's done so that it really doesn't take your full days. It's less than an hour usually. It depends a little bit on person's reading speed and thinking speed, but in general it's fast. And from the results perspective, actually, after it's run on the company, we can give the overview how this went, which are the areas which need more work. Maybe the email security and phishing is all very good, but social media is really weak. Or maybe the USP or portable media is really weak. Or maybe the Wi-Fi hygiene is non-existent. I don't know, whatever the area is. So essentially you see in the middle is the best place to be. It's very hard to get there. So you know everything. You know something better, you know something worse. So in this particular example, it's hard to read probably, but the email is kind of weak link in this particular example. So people need to be educated what is phishing, how to recognize one, what to do if it arrives. Should I trash it or should I send to some investigation parties, whatever it is. And that graph actually is available for kind of supervisors to analyze how the total population is, and it could be that the different user groups behave differently. I don't know, maybe the developers behave one way and sales reps behave differently. So actually those graphs can be different for different users. So conclusions and trainings can be specifically targeted or tailored after that. Any questions? Okay. Which leads us to the last area. Has anybody seen the dragon? Only you? Nobody else? I don't believe you. You're sleeping. Hey, wake up, there is a dragon in the room. Okay. So the pen testers are the dragons, right? Bad guys, do bad stuff. Or they are good guys, help you to make better choices, to fix the broken stuff. Who are they? Anyways, it doesn't matter what you think. What I'm saying is that it's all from the looking angle, from where you want to look things. And if you look specifically to the one thing, you may not notice some other things. So in this particular picture tries to illustrate that for the diver it seems pretty nice. All is what is before in front of it is clear water. What it doesn't see that there is a small fish coming just from the back. So it needs a bit wider view usually. And whoever we are trying or tend to be specifically focused so we can't look everywhere at the same time. So that's what pen testing tries to achieve, to give a bit wider view with different perspective, with different agenda, if you would like put that. Actually, there are various ways to find things going wrong. One of those is security audits. So essentially, this is what auditor comes into the company, has a large checklist and checks if everything is good. Is there a firewall? Yes. Is the rule for that? Yes. And it goes days and days. Wonderful job. So it checks against some standard or profile or whatever is given. Is it in the way it's supposed to be, in the paper at least? Another thing is more closer, maybe a little bit closer to reality, and it's called vulnerability assessment. So the environment is kind of evaluated, let's put it that way, with specific idea to find weaknesses. It could be, even in worst cases, it could be still code reviews, very time-consuming, but essentially it could fall there. But in most cases, it's not that deep. It's some other evaluation tools, scanners or verificators who try to assess are there any weaknesses. But usually that's with very specific scope, which leads us to the third point here. It's pen testers. And that's usually with much wider scope with not so fixed approach. So the idea is to find whatever means used during the process to find the objective, whatever the objective is. Is it either a specific application or specific data or specific access or people or whatever the target is. So if I would like to illustrate that this audits and assessments are kind of civilized ways. Mostly work on paper, some technical tools involved. The pen testing is a bit different usually. It's not that clean. It involves various tools and different approach, I would say, a little bit. So what type of pen testing there are? There are various. First group is external tests. And that can be as I don't know nothing, that's black box. I do know something is given, but not all. Or it could be really white box, which means essentially that everything is known. That's usually as deep as could be code reviews. Again, it could lead there in developer world. Very, very, very time consuming, very complex, needs a lot of effort. Another category is internal tests, and those are focused on models of people involved and trying to either assess or play those roles. And the first one is just persons who are interested about anything, whatever we could find, not specifically searching, but what is lying around. Kind of approach. A little bit worse is frustrated employee approach, when the person has already malicious intent. It's not necessarily very highly privileged, but it has intent and it has maybe some capabilities, not very sophisticated, but still, because the tools are usable, malicious tools. So there could be reasonably motivated people, not very specifically skilled, still capable of doing a lot of bad things. And obviously the worst thing there is frustrated admin or super user or whatever with very, very wide access and big risk profile. So about the things or environment components, what can be tested, it's actually everything there is. It starts from the specific devices or solutions, what are in place. It goes through the access means, either wired or wireless or VPN or whatever is there again. It could involve desktops, what's wrong there, old browsers, old Javas, whatever. And obviously, for this room, mostly it's probably applications itself on the web or on the mobile. The last presentation was very, very nice about the mobile weaknesses and approaches, what go there wrong. And obviously, there could be very specialized systems, industrial control systems or IoT devices in nowadays, lamp bulbs till there. So the variety is really big, and it all boils down to people. So usually some social aspects are involved as well. So how those tests are typically built up or executed in very primitive ways. There are a few phases. It usually starts with discovery reconnaissance phase. Before that, there is before that, there's a little bit of planning, obviously. It doesn't go with that, but the effective action goes with discovery and reconnaissance phase. What is there, what is possible to do at all in given circumstances. And then there is an attack phase, trying to accomplish the goals using various means, obviously. At the end, it ends up with a reporting. So whatever is discovered, and usually there is a lot of things discovered, it goes to some paper. I will explain the papers in the slide. But if we look quickly on proportional side, then the proportions are changing in years or in time. Most recent data I've got, then it expected the most of stuff is going to be, or at least the interest would be mostly external from the interfacing side, but also the internal is not that low priority either. So this internet-facing side has actually diminished over the years by small increments, and the internal or local has grown by steps. And obviously, the local system, whatever it is, mobile systems, etc., they are also growing. So how those tests are performed? Obviously, there are a bunch of tools which are involved, and depending on target, which is usually given in a beginning objective, tools could be different ones. Public domain, commercials, special purpose, whatever. The tools list in Pentester bag is huge, actually. There is I would say, tool for everything. But it doesn't go with knowledge. Pure tool doesn't do you nothing. It's just tool. So you have to have experience to use the tool, and not only the tool, but obviously you need mindset to approach the problem differently. So the results, which usually come out from the test, they are falling in two categories, which is typically handed over. The one is XO level report, CXO level, or IXO, or whatever, extra executive level, very brief, very nice color pies, for top management to give the overall picture. And then is a more technical report, which is delivered to IT department, so to say, which has all the technical details, what was discovered, how it was achieved, what weaknesses were found, what are the possible ways to fix them, etc., etc. So, can you do it yourself? Obviously. everything can be done by yourself. All the tools are available. What takes a little bit of time, and little bit is in quotation marks. It's not that little. It takes time to get the mindset right, to get the concepts right, how to look on things from different perspective. What are the approaches to go around if you can't go direct? And obviously, if you think of it for a moment, can you do it yourself? Yes, essentially you can do, just to improve your quality. But in the long run, if you kind of say that I would do pen test for my very wonderful application starting from day X till Z, that might arise small interest conflicts, or it sometimes rises. So essentially what I should say that I did crappy job over there few months back. Would I like to acknowledge that? Maybe. If it's really crappy, then maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, it's sometimes a conflict of interests. Still, if you choose to, where you could start, what is a good ground if I would be the web developer, for example. Obviously, I can't cover all the use cases, but one of the ideas which I could recommend is OWASP approach. It's not the standard. It's kind of best practices or things you should look at. They publish their top 10 risks or risky parts. Also, it was pretty interesting to see that the previous presenter actually touched the two first ones, I think. It was, or it wasn't first one. It was, anyway, the authentication part was touched, and I think the sensitive data exposure was also exposed last presentation. So it's pretty common to find several weaknesses or vulnerabilities or not best practices followed during procedure or process. They also have very good testing framework, specified how to test, what to test, what tools to use, what methodologies to follow. If you have some time, follow it, have a look. Even if you don't do the testing, it helps you to build the better application or better solutions. But usually the most challenging part is actually the timing part. You don't have time for all those things. So to sum it up, what we covered, sorry about the visuals, it's really bad on your screens, I see, but the brief is very summary. Everything is changing, and you have to constantly follow that. The attacks are changing, people are changing, methodologies to protect and track down somebody, it's also changing. The best way you can cope with that, be in constant development, in a sense, you develop the people. Obviously systems as well, but develop and test your people. Any questions? If not, then thank you all, and I will be around.